We're going to talk about embedding quotes. If you've ever heard your teacher tell you don't just put in a block of quotes and have quote after quote after quote in your research, one way to fix that problem is to embed your quotes and to paraphrase, which we'll talk about later. So to embed a quote, the first thing you're going to need is the quote. So you can see here I have original quotes from research. I've put 2 of them down so that we can practice with multiple quotes. So the first one says, this consumer group is about to initiate litigation against McDonald's so that it will no longer be able to promote unhealthy meals with toys. Now notice that I did not put the complete sentence. I only quoted the information from that original sentence that I felt was necessary to prove whatever point I want to make in my paper. So I don't have a capital letter at the beginning because this isn't the complete sentence from the source. It's just that quote. So when I'm ready to embed, what that means is to insert the quote into a sentence that I created. This does a couple of things. It helps with fluency in your paper so that it doesn't sound like multiple voices and it doesn't get choppy with quote after quote after quote. It's going to kind of go seamlessly into your writing as if you could have written it yourself. So this quote is embedded in this example right here. It says, one would never have thought 20 years ago that a consumer group would be about to initiate litigation so that McDonald's would no longer be able to promote unhealthy meals with toys. So you can see it reads just as if it was my own sentence. There was no break that said, one survey stated, and then you state it. Instead, I've created it where the sentence, if I took out those quotation marks, you would never know that part of it was not mine. Now, of course, part of it isn't mine, so I've done the appropriate thing, which is put quotation marks around it and put parenthetical documentation after it so that whomever reads it will know that those words were not mine and exactly where they came from. You'll notice that some of the words are in pink and some are in blue. What I've done here is the words in pink are my original words, word for word, what I said, and the words in blue are the quote from my research, just so you can see how when you're embedding, part of the sentence is mine and part of the sentence is the quote itself. The parenthetical documentation goes directly after the quote, even if it's in the middle of a paragraph. So you'll see in example 2 that this one, the quote was in the middle of the paragraph, in the middle of the sentence, and so I put the parenthetical documentation right there when the quote ends. So this one reads, a consumer group is about to initiate litigation against McDonald's so that it will no longer be able to promote unhealthy meals with toys, which entices children to eat more fast food. So you'll notice here that, again, I have words in pink, which are mine, and then I have the quote in blue, and my parenthetical documentation is directly after that quote, which just happens to be in the middle of this embedded sentence. You'll notice that I also have to punctuate it correctly, so I have a comma before which entices children to eat more fast food, because if this was my complete sentence, since this is an afterthought and it comes before the word which, the comma has to come before the word which always, that I go ahead and put my comma there. So don't slack on the punctuation when you are embedding your quotes. You have to punctuate it correctly. You'll also notice that I did the same thing in the first example. Here, the original quote said, this consumer group is about to initiate. So it was is, which is present tense. But in my example, I'm saying one would never have thought. Okay, so no longer am I in the same tense. So instead, I've put brackets around would be and changed is to would be. The brackets indicate to anybody that's looking at this quote that it used to be a different tense of that word. So they'll know that I changed it slightly, but did not change at all the meaning of the sentence. All I did was change the verb, so my subject and my verb agreed, and so that the verb tense was consistent throughout the quote. Right here I have ellipses. The 3 dots, ellipses indicate I took something out of the quote. So if you look at the original quote, what I took out was against McDonald's, because I didn't need it grammatically. Instead, I put the ellipses because I took out those 2 words, and that indicates that I've deleted something from the quote. And then again, I have brackets so that my tense stays the same. And that's how the sentence was so fluid, is I made sure that even though I was using someone else's words, anything that needed to be tweaked to make it grammatically correct, I did. Okay, so we're going to try one more here to see how it works. So my second quote is, McDonald's toys represent frivolity and waste. So, first thing I'm going to do is think about the meaning of my sentence. So they're saying toys represent frivolity and waste. So frivolity would be something that's not necessary. It's just an extra. So let's say that what I'm trying to say is that the consumer group says that toys represent frivolity and waste. So I'm going to start with my own words so that this quote about it being wasteful has some sort of context. So I'm going to say the consumer group who initiated a lawsuit against McDonald's posits McDonald's toys represent frivolity and waste. And then again, I put my parenthetical documentation. So here you can see I started with my own words. There they are in pink so that they stand out. And then I have my quote here in blue. So you can see that what I choose for my embedding for the sentence is going to be something that puts that quote in context. That's how you embed quotes.